bouts of doom scrolling, as they call it now, uh, where hours pass by and I'm scrolling and there is no real knowledge coming in. I have mentioned this in quite a few episodes. Uh, but there are days, evenings that I find that one craves human company, even for a cup of tea or something, just to talk a bit, which is not fulfilling if done on phone or any such. Most of my friends that I'm close to are now living in far-flung places for some reason or the other. Uh, Physical proximity is not always a chance that I have. And I find this dichotomy very interesting that always connected but feeling alone. Uh, Let me welcome our guests and my guest on the podcast, particularly Manoj on the show. Hi, Manoj.
Hi, Surinder. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Uh, this is a very strange place to be in. Like when we grew up, I don't think we had any such thing. Uh, of course, there was boredom. There were days when you couldn't meet your friends, bad weather, you couldn't go down to play, or you didn't have time. You were working at a frenetic pace and uh, didn't find time for each other. But you lived with it. There wasn't too much of a issue per se. Of late, I find across all ages, when I talk to my mother, to my kid, to others, I find that we are so addicted to our digital devices, and yet, uh, whenever there is even a normal conversation that happens, there is so much of happiness, even if you're talking some random things. That you're back to the real world kind of thing. Do you think it's a present day thing, or was it always a thing, and we are just now blaming devices and social media for it?
No, definitely, this is something that's a recent phenomenon. Uh, Technology has very slowly kind of taken over our lives. Um, I remember even in the initial days of the mobile phone, or in the initial days of the internet, we were still fairly free in that sense, to move out and to meet and interact, in person. This change that we see today and the way things have become, I think this has become more this has worsened over a period of the last 10 years or so, I think. Um, the proliferation of social media and the infinite scrolling, this it's like, I think we've discussed this before. There are these attention engineers out there, who are paid millions just to figure out ways of how to hook your brain in such a way that you keep staying on their platform, because that's what they're selling. It's
Yeah,
your attention is what they're after. So we are we are in that state, and I think we are all to a greater or lesser extent victims to
oh,
this this uh, this phenomenon. And I think that, uh, I don't think anybody, even the people who are behind this technology, actually knew how this is going to end up, how it's
okay,
going to shape human behavior to this extent. Like,
yeah,
so they've been given, some sort of an objective or a goal that this is what we want, maximize revenue by this way. And so they've devised ways, and they've figured out how we react and how do we, keep people longer. So, so doom scrolling, suggested videos, suggested posts, there's that, all of those things. So they've figured out over time, this is how we kind of keep uh, constantly interacting with that platform.
yeah,
And it's just sort of evolved this way now. And I think a lot of people are beginning to kind of question that. And I've seen that social media is finding, or rather, is falling out of favor. Uh,
hmm,
I know I've been reading news reports about people who are getting off social media now. because it's getting too much.
Okay. So actually, you preempted my next question. I was thinking, uh, always behaving as if something else is happening to us when things go wrong. Uh, where is the point of picking up responsibility for our engagement with these things? Uh, so before this, there were shopping addictions or chocolate addiction, the rising of the rise of consumption of sweets and chocolates and uh, food, like gluttony has become a big deal. I know I'm part of it as well, week after week. Uh, so there was always an addiction that took over, but there was always this thing: you are responsible, you can do something about it. How do we start seeing this quote unquote monster of a revolution that is happening in our social fabric? And I call it monster because of the sheer impact it has across ages, across geographies. How do you figure out what is your role? Uh, is there any method to it, or have you ever thought about this, tried this?
So there are certain things that individuals can really do, I think, which is what I think we've discussed in one of our past sessions, where um, I think a few years back, I just decided one day not to post on social media anymore and completely stopped posting. And that made a difference because then there was no need for me to actually interact anymore, especially on my posts, because I'm not posting. So there is no obligation on my part to respond to comments or anything. And I'm not even looking forward to anything now because I'm not posting. So earlier I used to post a lot and I had a lot of interaction, a lot of engagement with my network, especially on Facebook. Then I stopped it because I realized that I'm spending too much time and on the platform. And so that's one thing that I individually I could do. But then there are things, which are a little more difficult, like passive consumption is something that is more difficult to deal with because you are constantly surrounded by uh, a lot of these stimuli, which are always around in some form or the other. Like
Okay,
now, for instance, WhatsApp has become ubiquitous. It's very difficult to function without WhatsApp because businesses are on it, and you get all your messages and stuff like that on it, and you have important groups, you have family groups, you friends, who are spread across the world. Like you said, you're interacting with a lot of friends who are not really in proximity now. And WhatsApp is a practical and easy way to be in touch with them. But then it comes with its own, drawbacks. Because you're on WhatsApp, people share. There'll be a reel that somebody will share. You'll go to the reel, you'll want to watch it. If you're logged in, then that reel will get you into, and that's it's basically it's like a rabbit hole.
yeah, this,
It's okay. I mean, the moment you click on it, naturally you kind of scroll. So it requires an enormous amount of self-awareness and self-discipline to not do that. And the positive side is, like I said, a lot of people who are beginning to realize that social media is harming them. They may not be able to pinpoint exactly how, but they're realizing that it is harming them and the social fabric of maybe their entire network and stuff like that. So, but actual change will actually only happen when we can't take it anymore. It's like in anything like that. When all revolutions have taken place when people can't take it anymore.
okay,
So they're going to push the limits, and then one fine day, and they'll try to figure out ways. So there have been court cases about this, about the manipulation that high tech companies, these tech companies, have been trying to, indulge in, and they try to figure out a way. And then certain times where they've had to kind of make some changes
yeah.
based on the court cases and the public outcry. So I think. we'll kind of come back to some sort of a balance. We're probably at a one extreme right now, but I think that's changing. That's my hope.
Uh, so you did mention self-awareness and self-discipline. I want to stay there for a moment.
Sure.
And what does one tell oneself if one is not realizing? So I'll give you my personal example. The feeling at the end of an hour and a half of having scrolled through some innumerable things which have also taken me out and in of the whichever platform, whether it was YouTube, Facebook, or uh, one insight I've been having is that I do three, four things at a time. I'm watching a movie on Netflix. I am also scrolling my WhatsApp. I'm talking to my family, and I'm eating at the same time. I sometimes am doing all these things, and I'm saying, "Okay, hello, you're supposed to be mindful. What are you mindful of?" Every moment you are shifting. Uh, also, there is a new kind of attention deficit. Longer spans of attention are not manageable as they were before. So even watching a movie at one go suddenly seems like 2.5 hours. Yeah. So many times I'm not even clicking on those movies which go about 2 hours 15 minutes. Look, I don't have that kind of time. But I have realized that I am sitting at the same place and have scrolled through some innumerable different things. May I have also done some work in the time
Yes.
being,
Mhm.
but all of that, I was there for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and doing in front of my device for whatever reason. But just the feeling of time being crunched, also being useless, because if I'm just scrolling, then after an hour, I find, okay, what is the knowledge I gained, or is there anything in particular that stuck with me? Unless it is something that I've at the beginning of the internet, I had this fundamental rule for myself: if you know what you want, internet is a great friend.
Mhm.
So if there is a topic I am searching on, if there is somewhere I really want to go, okay, I need knowledge about these ABC things, this industry, this kind of help, then it gives you really good support, and faster than ever before. You've been a writer, you know, earlier we used to scrounge through magazines on the roadside and collect material from various places to get your hang of what is it that you understand about the subject. Now there is no such need.
Mhm.
Um, so my question is, can you take us through the discipline, the need for discipline, and when one realizes that, what is it that makes the turn happen? Because otherwise it's an enjoyable thing, because some kind of stupid comedy or drama or stories or something is going on which is keeping you entertained in the minuscule moment or minute or whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
But beyond that, these are not stories with some life-changing lessons or some such. This could be some comic thing, some group that you like that are doing good content on one of the social platforms. But it's really not aiding your understanding of many things necessarily.
Mhm.
So where will the that prick of, okay, no, I need to relook at this? Any thoughts on this?
Um, yeah, I think there are ways in which uh, so we go back to why do we do it first of all, right? You need to understand your own motivation to do something.
Hmm.
Um, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. So long as you are aware that this is not a form of an escape, you know, like you are using it as an escape, then you need to kind of introspect why you're doing it. Because then the answer may not lie in trying in self-discipline directly. Self-discipline then come from figuring out what is it that you're trying to escape, and can you like then not escape and try to kind of be there, present with whatever it is that's uncomfortable to you.
Okay.
And the other thing that, for instance, I have done, and in my example, like I spend a lot of time on YouTube. Uh, But YouTube has this thing that because there was a time before TikTok where you decided what you wanted to watch. Okay. And there's something interesting that I recently figured out that was very fascinating. That it was you who decided, you went on to Instagram and then you chose to either follow or to have friends, right? People. But TikTok decided to ignore that and said, we will try to maximize your time, the user's time on the platform. So we will ignore their own preferences and we will show them what we want to show them. And then quickly everybody realized this is a fantastic way of, trying to maximize user engagement. So all the other social networks also followed. So now Instagram shows what it wants to show you. Doesn't necessarily show you what you want to see because you decided to choose to follow certain people. So the idea then is to not engage with all of those things and train this so-called algorithm, at least to whatever extent you can, in because the algorithm responds to your engagement, right? So if you don't engage, which means when you go and when you are on a platform, can you retain a little bit of consciousness about what are you doing? And the moment you do that, like on YouTube, you have a choice to, like, for a suggested video, you have a choice to actually go and mark it as not interested. So you're training the algorithm to understand that this is not the kind of content I want to watch. And I do it repeatedly on some kind of content because I know it's enjoyable, but it's a pure waste of time.
Okay.
So, and on the other hand, I will actively engage with the content that I do want to engage in. Maybe because it's useful to me in my work, or it helps me in, becoming, a better human being or whatever it is. I mean, you decide. But if it's pure entertainment that you are using social media for, then I think you need to kind of have that self-discipline that I'm going to spend X amount of time and that's all. And that's fine. And there's nothing wrong in being entertained. It's okay. We used to watch, soap operas and stuff like that. And people have started what, scrolling on. So it's the same thing. A lot of people have replaced those, or the earlier idiot box that we used to call it. We used to call it the idiot box only because it used to kind of dumb down. Like a lot of people believe that one of the reasons of America's downfall is Friends. This the thing is that people think that it basically dumbed you down.
Yeah, they do.
So the kind of content that they had. So it's something similar. So you can decide, that this is the amount of time I'm going to spend on social media, doom scrolling, or whatever it is you're doing. Uh, and that will require, like in anything else, you want to achieve something in life, you decide this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to eliminate the distractions.
Yeah. I like the fact uh, that you brought in the aspect of that the introspection needs to be done first
Yeah.
on several layers of thought. So why am I going on social media? What is it that I want from it? And engaging mindfully,
Hmm.
uh, disengaging mindfully as well, in the sense of choosing your options, uh, being mindful of the time you're spending,
Yes.
even if you have your options clear that you're trying to be entertained or informed. uh, like in our line of work, when you're a writer, you need to do research very often, but there has to be an end to research, because every topic you can go till the end of your life and still not be satisfied.
Absolutely.
So that's not the way to go about it. So you really understand the binding of time and delivery and things like that. In
Hmm.
this case, you, what is being delivered back to you is your freedom,
Hmm.
your time, your attention. Uh, I want to, bring up something that I experienced with a friend of mine, far younger in age. So she has this unique tendency to go either completely off or stay on the social media for longish period of times.
Mhm.
She can go off for long periods of time, absolutely, because she feels uh, she has this whole mood swings, which she may qualify as a semi-depressive sometimes. But I would think a lot of us would qualify if there was some manner of doing it easily. But the whole idea being that entire late nights are spent either doom scrolling uh, or not. But even when she was not, if I remember correctly, and we used to have these conversations, the whole aspect of I am missing out on something, not in the sense of social media, but because others are so happening and I am not,
Mhm.
was a very deep thing for her. And she's mid-age, not really very young, as in not in her teens or something. So it was a surprise to me. Why would you think like that? Why don't you get on with your life and figure out what you want? And uh, surprisingly and not so surprisingly, basic decision making skills get ruined at times. So although this is only one case in point, so one can't really make a case out of it in the sense of is this happening to everyone. But if I look within myself, I find there is a lot of there was lot. It was a lot more easier to stick to discipline before social media for me as well. So I knew this is a tough path, and I would choose the tough path and go down that road, knowing that now next few days I have to uh, face this aspect of myself and come out winning if possible.
Right.
Now that becomes a little more challenging than before. Uh, I have contemplated, is it because one is also growing old, which cannot be the case because everything else when you are going to have fun games, going to a mall or spending time with friends or uh, so there is no such impact. So why is this impact restricted to only one aspect of our life? My question to you, uh, how does one select uh, content when it is being thrown at you at a speed that you can't cope with? So when you in fact gave an example, so you have been off social media, I send you a reel, you go and check that reel. The moment you check that reel, the second one, the third one, the fifth one, the 10th one, the 20th one is already going on. And they may not all be on the same topic as well. But they keep varying it so that you don't get bored. The
Mhm.
topic also has a period of entertainment. So they are very clever that way. They have managed the algorithm in a manner where something that puts you off and again brings you back on track on that same state. How does one uh, do this knowingly and understanding it? Because the amount of information and the subjects.
Mhm.
So let me try and bring a lovely Buddha angle to it. Buddha was asked that since you are all knowing or you know so much about so many subjects, uh, can you? There were a lot of questions being asked of him to check whether he really knew.
Mhm.
And at some point he said, "Look," he asked the monks. He picks up a few leaves in the forest and he says, "Are the leaves in my hand more, or is the quantity of leaves on the trees in the forest more?" So
Mhm.
they tell him, "Obviously, the leaves in the forest are more." He says, "I may know everything about everything in the leaves of the forest if that was equal to what I knew. But what I have in my hand is useful to you in terms of your growth that can keep you away from sorrow and put you on a path to happiness. So I choose to speak only of this. And if you have questions only about this, am I going to entertain them?" I find this fascinating because this kind of cuts across a lot of things, even in the spiritual realm. There are days when I see some stuff and I say, "Okay, it's no longer applicable to me in the sense of I know about it, I know what it means. I've gone through the crevices of this thought also, and I have a fair understanding of this. I don't need to engage myself just because a saintly figure is talking about it or something. It is again an entertainment to me. I have crossed this part. I need to focus on my practice in a better manner, in a more engaging. So, same question I would put to you. Uh, where there is a huge amount of information, how do you how do you pick and choose at least? Is there any way to even the quality of picking and choosing? What works for you? How do you know that?
I don't know if it works for me. I cannot say. Whatever I'm talking is, off the head right now. Whatever is coming, it's not like I've thought about this before. Um, what I've noticed in me, and perhaps you will probably also relate to it, and a lot of my our listeners will also relate to it, is that there is a point where you begin to notice some sort of fatigue. Certain kind of content no longer interests you, even if it's informative, even if it's otherwise, maybe you would have found it interesting some time ago, but it kind of, it's been done to death, that like constantly the same kind of thing has been rehashed and put to presented in a manner that makes you feel like, oh, maybe this must be interesting, and let me, especially the clickbaity kind of, titles. I tend to avoid those. Anything that shouts, anything that screams, I am already put off by it. Anything that tells you, you must watch this, or in the next 2 days this is going to end, or that'll happen, or like trying to very hard to get your attention. Those are things that I'm already put off by. There's too much fatigue in me for those. I don't have that. It's already crossed that threshold, so I don't click them. So it's now becoming counterproductive. If you, at least as far as I'm concerned, so I'm assuming that if I'm feeling this way, there would be enough number of people who have started to feel this way, and at some point there'll be more and more people who will, and there'll be a tipping point, and then this kind of content will stop, because everybody's just trying to vie for attention, because there are billions of videos on YouTube and everybody wants their share of attention, and so they, even otherwise decent content creators have unfortunately resorted to this kind of gimmick, where their thumbnails, as you call them, they're clickbaity.
Yeah,
They'll shout something that feels urgent, feels very important. And if it feels urgent and feels important, it's probably not going to be, it's going to let you down, because this is just something that they're trying to, because nothing can be that urgent or important. It's not news. It's not some, major current affair or something like that. So I don't usually, for that, I will go to a news channel if at all I'm interested, which I'm not usually. So, I stopped reading newspapers in 2012. I actually stopped my subscription to newspapers in 2012,
yeah,
because I realized that I was starting my day with a lot of negativity, and we were when we grew up when we were growing up, newspapers were supposed to be like a, kind of like a virtue. You're supposed to know what's happening in the world, current affairs and all that. But by the time, like 10, 15 years ago, I thought, like, enough. I don't think I need to know. Whatever I need to know, somebody will come and tell me, somebody will inform me if it's that relevant. So I don't need to, expose myself to so much negative information first thing in the morning, because puts you out of alignment. It puts you, your tuning kind of goes off.
true, true.
So it's something like that. And I think so engaging with social media then becomes, like we said in the beginning, a matter of self-awareness to some extent. Like, there are going to be times when you will still fall into that kind of a rabbit hole, and then you'll realize, oh, you spent half an hour, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, and you'll wake up and you say, oh, what am I doing? And I'll just stop. But what I do most of the time is that people who share with reels, and if I find them uh, to be only purely entertainment value, in all likelihood, I'm just going to not view them. I won't watch it, or if I watch it, like maybe I'll not complete it, I'll just stop it and I'll get out of it. So that there is no chance for it to actually automatically scroll up to the next video. I don't give it a chance. Sometimes there are interesting videos that I want to watch. Somebody has shared something and it's really interesting, and I watch it. And then maybe there is that risk of me getting hooked on and spending much more time than intended. I think that is a trade-off that we will have to accept. This is the nature of the animal.
Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's a word that is bandied about quite a lot. Self-awareness.
Mm.
Uh, in practical terms,
Mhm.
what are the methodologies that you employ in your daily life to increase this level of being with yourself? If I were to loosely call self-awareness that, uh, what is it that you do that gives you a more grounded in yourself perspective, uh, for better or worse? Obviously, there anything to the extreme is always a little dicey in terms of you may be getting it wrong, but in your mind you may be thinking you cracked it. So
Mm.
that there is always that possibility.
Mm.
But I think self-awareness, uh, by and far, is a little milder. This because it is not decisive in its own thing. It's more of a study of things uh, as a process, I would think. Uh, so, what is it that you do to ground yourself, if I may use the term?
So what I do it isn't um, a set number of steps or something like that. It is more like sort of an attunement where you self-awareness is again something that is very it's often used in many different contexts. So in the context that I'm at the moment using it, I really mean what I mean is uh, are we aware of what is it that we always want, and are we then uh, is our action matching our intent? That awareness is needed because otherwise, if there's a mismatch between our action and our intent, at least the intent that we think we want, maybe we haven't analyzed our intentions itself, that's a different matter. But whatever intent that we are aware of at this moment, are we actually, is our action matching that intent? I think over time it takes a little bit of trial and error, but over time you figure out and you kind of know that okay, these are things that are a big mismatch, and so I need to be cautious of them. I mean, try and be away from them. Try and stay away from them. If I can't, then at least I'm aware at that point that I'm getting into dangerous territory. So there's some level of awareness of what I'm doing. And so maybe, so it's much easier for me to wake up from that slumber. And suddenly when I'm deeply unconscious and, spending 2 hours, that doesn't happen with me anymore. I'm not spending that long on social media anymore.
Yeah,
So I think that little of awareness, it's like almost somebody tapping on it's your own sort of subconscious mind, maybe reminding you that you're not this is not what your intentions were, so stop this and come back to what you want to actually do. So I think that takes a little bit of uh, again introspection and do it all the time in the sense it's not just about social media. That's something that you need to do
yeah, yeah,
overall in life, whatever you're doing, whether you're like if you're talking about eating, for instance, and are you getting carried away and eating things that to be harmful or self-destructive. And to what extent are you going to do it? How often are you indulging in it? Are you indulging in it with awareness, or are you just like, okay, this is something I cannot resist? How often do you fall into that trap of getting into it and then regretting later that, oh, I shouldn't have done it?
yeah.
So it takes time, I think, and it takes a little bit of like it's like the spiritual muscle. It's I mean, I don't know, not a very uh,
Mm.
nice metaphor, but you need to go to the gym and practice and lift your weight and do resistance exercise. So it's something like that. You build your resistance muscles to these things.
Okay. Uh, I want to ask. simpler question in the self-awareness territory only. So the outer world or the outer um, topics of interest have the novelty in them.
Mhm.
Uh, every now and then I get entertained, I get surprised, I get excited, depressed. Uh, my kid has been coming and saying that uh, sometimes we cry because we like crying. We're constantly happy about the fact that we are crying because it's, I guess what she means is it gives us something to do, so we are doing. That's the most that can be done in that event, whatever it could be. Um, do you not get bored with yourself being the topic of interest throughout? Because self awareness would mean that you need to be attentive to yourself, uh, at least in the initial phase of the trying. So, this is a fairly simple question like excitement of the world, boredom of looking at yourself. How do you reconcile the two? Uh, and what helps you keep your balance between the two, or uh, is it that the outside world's novelties don't interest you anymore at all?
Difficult to answer this question in without understanding what you mean by these novelties. Because yes, there are a lot of things that do no longer interest me. Like they would have maybe 15, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Slowly and steadily, I'm kind of like looking at certain things. And for instance, politics was something that I was never interested in until social media. And then I got interested in because I saw uh, I saw such a lot of cognitive dissonance in people about politics and what they what they projected themselves to be, and then what their political ideologies were in such contrast, and that made me feel like, oh, I need to kind of try and correct them. And so that was, something that I would feel very strongly about. And for quite some time, I think you were there. We on Facebook, I used to write like very intense posts, very serious posts about helping people to see clearly, because that's been my, forte. Like I want to write and I want to help people to see how there is conflict within their own thoughts. That's always been my intent in writing, and I'm trying to do that all the time. And I'm constantly doing feeling very strongly about some events and people responding to the events, and I'm trying to see, listen, but you said this, but what about this? Like this you're saying this, but this is not matching. So why are you supporting this action, of this political party or whatever? And at some point, I realized that what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And uh,
Correct.
why am I trying to set anything? I don't want to fix the world. That's something that, first of all, is not possible. I don't want to fix the world. So that kind of gave me that freed me up in a lot of ways. The moment I decided I don't want to fix the world, a lot of these things lose interest. And half the social media is filled with content about what's wrong with the world and what can you do about it, and let's do this, whether it's climate change or it's other kind of activism. I don't want to fix the world, to be honest. There's something I can do, I will do. But fixing the world is something that is not possible, because I think we have again touched upon this once. Interestingly, I remember Nisargadatta Maharaj, once he was asked about this, and he had it's like, people are talking about how the world is in such a mess. There's so much corruption, there's so much greed, and there's so much violence, and there's that what you and so somebody asked him, and he said that his response was very hard hitting. He said, in my world there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And and I also remember at another point, whether it was in the same conversation with somebody else, I don't remember because this is from his book, I Am That, where he made this very clear. He said, what will you do? What will you achieve by fixing the world? You think you can fix the world? Let's say you fix the world. Let's say you get a king, who's very just and honest and perfect and, everything is set and all. How long will he live? And how long before chaos again takes over, ensues?
Wow.
So this is the way the world is going to be. So let the world figure itself out. Don't try to fix the world. To that extent, if you ask me, I look at myself and I say, I don't think there is anything much that I can do to fix myself as well. What I can do is see myself as I am, and that is not something that is boring. That is very challenging.
Yeah.
Can I see myself as I am? And I realize that I'm astonished at the ability of our minds to deceive our own selves constantly. So, I'm very cautious about not wanting to pretend to be more evolved than I am because I don't even like the word evolved because there comes a comparison, and the moment I see comparison, I'm looking at myself with and in relation to somebody. So I'm again, my attention is outward.
Interestingly, yesterday I was watching an episode called Right Effort is No Effort, a talk by Ajahn Sumedo.
Hmm.
And he was asked this question by someone. Uh, this was a question and answer kind of thing. And he was asked, the monks who are beginning, initially they may need to put in effort till the time they reach. He says, but that's the point. You keep the precepts, you are a morally upright monk, the kind who deserves the donation that people are giving him, working very hard. But there is a doer, and that is where you are seeing it always. I have to do this is, and that is what needs to be witnessed. You got to witness, and that's the point of the whole exercise. And I thought it was so. So one of the things that I am realizing, along with the answer that you gave, which was absolutely grounded, very easy to follow, at least in terms of, okay, you want to pick up the pieces, so first you let go of the thousands of things you're interested in. Let go, not necessarily or consciously, but figure out that do you really need these thousand things in your life. You cut them down, automatically, slowly you become more of who you want to be, what gives you peace and happiness perhaps, and then you keep studying whatever you have, because that's what you've been trying to do. And
Yes.
then it may work or not. That fixing is a very strong word there. Obviously, when even in the answer that Ajahn Sumedo gave, you have to witness. So witness means doing nothing, and doing nothing is, I think, the most doing thing ever. If one has to put in effort, perhaps.
Mm.
Um, so the point I was making was that at some,
I would say just one moment. I would say that witnessing is not doing is can be confusing to some people, but what I think what you're trying to say and what it really means is not being identified with the action.
yes,
So the
yes,
action is happening. It's not like you sit and you become passive and nothing will happen. So if I see something happening which is wrong, I'm going to probably go and stop it. But it is not with the intention of, oh, I want to correct the world. This is instinctive, something I would naturally do. I'm not doing it because
yeah,
there is this whole big, huge idea of me being a
saving the
savior or
world.
something like nothing of that sort. It's something you do naturally without that self-consciousness coming in, that, oh, I am doing it or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
sorry, you were saying something.
so the idea being that this constant sense of studying yourself also frees you at many levels about your judgments, about others, about the events, about anything else that is happening, because you start seeing your Like you said, oneness with, not in the sense that you said it, you said that more and more you let go of other things that were not you, in finding who you are in a way, or who you perceived yourself to be, and then seeing the deception, then seeing, oh, it's okay. There are levels, there are many nuances that keep propping up, and you are surprised. And there are days when I found myself smiling, thinking, oh, this is who you were. I mean, this is what you were thinking all along.
Hmm.
And as if you met a new person altogether. There is nothing to be saying that, oh, this is this solidity, or this is who I am. And in doing that, I find if somebody else does it, it amuses me to say, oh, I have been like this. So it's all right. At some point, it just unravels itself. So the beauty is, the simpler you become, the more comfortable you become in being a witness. You do all the same actions that you were doing always. You will still follow whatever practices or non-practices that you are doing, or you will eat when you are hungry, and you sleep. Uh, you may go wrong at times, you may go right at times. All of those things will still happen as they were.
True.
Your identification becomes lesser and lesser, and that is what is freedom, I guess. Small, small snippets of not being burdened by some earlier knowledge of who this is. You just say, yeah, yeah, it is. So what?
Yes.
Um it's been a wonderful conversation once more. So many layers of thought strike up, and words are really poor communicators at
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
when you can see things. But hopefully, somewhere somebody will gain something out of this attempt to clarify our own understanding for ourselves.
Yes.
May all benefit from this
Yeah, absolutely.
beautiful
That is really the
conversation.
intention. That is the intention.
Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Pleasure. Pleasure.